My husband let his family crash our Bali honeymoon, so I left them and went to Hawaii by myself. I'm 26. When I married my husband Bruce, I thought I was stepping into the future with the man I loved, someone I would grow old with and share my dreams with. But that idealistic vision of family I had, where love, respect, and loyalty reigned supreme, started to unravel the moment I became a part of his family. I had known Bruce for 5 years before we decided to get married. We met at a mutual friend's party during our mid-20s, both of us ambitious young professionals finding our way in the world. Our connection was instant. He had this charming smile that lit up his whole face, and we could talk for hours about everything and nothing. During our dating years, things were nearly perfect. We supported each other through career changes, celebrated promotions together, and helped each other through personal challenges. When Bruce lost his father to cancer 2 years into our relationship, I was there every step of the way, holding his hand through the grief. When I decided to switch companies for better opportunities, he encouraged me to take the leap. We were a team, or so I thought. Looking back, there were subtle signs I chose to ignore, like how Bruce would never make plans without checking with his mother first, or how family dinners at their house were mandatory every Sunday, no exceptions. I remember once when we had tickets to a concert that happened to fall on a Sunday. Bruce insisted we skip it because his mother Nancy had already planned the weekly family dinner. "Family comes first," he said, as if I wasn't meant to be his family too. The real troubles began when we got engaged. What should have been one of the happiest times of our lives quickly turned into a power struggle with Nancy at the helm. It started small. Suggestions about the wedding venue turned into demands, gentle advice about the guest list became non-negotiable additions. Nancy had opinions about everything, from the color of the tablecloths to the brand of champagne we should serve. I still remember the day we went dress shopping. I had invited my mother and best friend, planning for an intimate experience. But when we arrived at the bridal boutique, Nancy was already there with Bruce's 2 sisters. She'd somehow found out which store I'd booked and decided to surprise me. "We're family now," she said with that saccharine smile of hers. "You wouldn't want to leave us out of such an important moment, would you?" Throughout the appointment, Nancy dismissed every dress I liked as too simple or not befitting our family's status. She pushed me toward elaborate ball gowns that weren't my style at all. When I finally found a dress I loved, an elegant fitted gown with delicate lace details, Nancy actually teared up, but not in joy. "Oh, darling," she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "is that really the image you want to present? What will everyone think?" Bruce, when I told him about it later, just shrugged it off. "Mom knows about these things," he said. "She just wants what's best for us." It became his standard response to every boundary his mother crossed. The wedding planning only got worse from there. Nancy insisted on being copied on every email with vendors, often reaching out to them directly to make changes without consulting us. She added 30 people to our guest list, distant relatives and business associates I'd never met, and when I protested, she told Bruce I was being difficult and unwilling to embrace the family. Bruce's sisters were no better. They appointed themselves as unofficial wedding planners, showing up unannounced at our apartment with magazines and Pinterest boards, criticizing every decision we'd already made. They even went so far as to change our flower order behind my back because they decided my chosen colors wouldn't photograph well. The wedding day itself was barely recognizable as our own. Nancy had somehow convinced Bruce to change our outdoor garden ceremony to formal church wedding, complete with a string quartet and professional videographer we hadn't budgeted for. My simple, elegant decorations were replaced with elaborate floral arrangements that Nancy had ordered. Even our first dance song was changed last minute because Nancy thought our choice wasn't sophisticated enough. I tried to keep the peace, telling myself it was just one day, but then came the honeymoon disaster. We had spent months planning our dream trip to Bali. I'd researched the best beaches, found perfect romantic restaurants, even booked a couple's cooking class. Then, 3 days before we were set to leave, Nancy dropped her bomb. "We've decided to join you," she announced during Sunday dinner, beaming as if she'd just given us the greatest gift. "The whole family hasn't had a vacation together in ages, and what better time than now?" She'd already booked rooms at our resort for herself, her daughters, and their husbands. Bruce, instead of standing up for our private time, actually looked excited about the idea. That night I tried to reason with him. "This is supposed to be our honeymoon," I said, fighting back tears. "It's meant to be special just for us." "But isn't it better to share special moments with family?" he replied, genuinely confused by my distress. "Mom's already made all the arrangements. She's even planned some great group activities." The honeymoon was a nightmare. Every morning Nancy would knock on our door at 7 a.m. sharp with the day's itinerary. Our romantic dinners became family affairs, with Nancy holding court at the head of the table. Even our couple's massage was hijacked. Nancy convinced Bruce that we should all go to the spa together for family bonding. I reached my breaking point on our fourth day. We were supposed to have a sunset dinner cruise, just the two of us. I'd been looking forward to it for months, but when we arrived at the dock, there was the entire family dressed and ready to go. Nancy had called the company and changed our reservation to a group booking. That night, I packed my bags and booked a flight to Hawaii. Bruce was shocked when I told him I was leaving. "But we're having such a nice time," he said, genuinely perplexed. "Mom's put so much effort into making this special for everyone." In Hawaii, I spent a week alone, really thinking about my marriage and what it had become. Bruce called constantly at first, but the messages were less about my feelings and more about how I'd embarrassed his family by leaving. "Mom's really upset," he'd say. "How could you do this to us?" When I returned home, things only got worse. Nancy had convinced Bruce that I needed to make up for ruining the family honeymoon. Suddenly, we were expected at their house not just for Sunday dinners but for breakfast on Saturdays, weekly family game nights, and any other event Nancy could dream up. She started showing up at our apartment unannounced, usually when Bruce was at work, to help me become a better wife. She'd reorganize our kitchen because this is how Bruce likes things, or redo our laundry because you're not folding his shirts correctly. When I tried to establish boundaries, she'd burst into tears and call Bruce, telling him I was pushing her away. The family's interference extended to every aspect of our lives. When we started house hunting, Nancy insisted on coming to every viewing, dismissing any home that wasn't in their neighborhood as unsuitable for a Bradley. When I got a promotion at work, instead of celebrating my success, she lectured me about how career women often struggle to maintain a happy home. Bruce's sisters were constant presences too, always ready to report back to their mother about any perceived slight. If I missed a family dinner because of work, I'd get passive-aggressive texts about prioritizing family. If I didn't immediately answer their group chat messages, they'd call Bruce to make sure I was okay because I was being unusually distant. The final straw came during that fateful family dinner where I tried to share my excitement about landing a major client at work. Before I could even finish speaking, Nancy interrupted with news about her latest project, a family business she was starting. She expected Bruce to quit his job and join her, and of course I was expected to do all the social media marketing for free, because family helps family. That night, looking at Bruce's excited face as he discussed leaving his job for his mother's project, I realized nothing would ever change. I wasn't his partner, I was just another member of his family's audience, expected to play whatever role they assigned me. The next day, I confronted Bruce. I laid everything out: how I felt smothered, disrespected, and alone in our marriage, how his family's constant presence had stripped away any chance for us to build our own life together, how I needed him to be my husband, not just his mother's son. His response told me everything I needed to know. "I don't understand why you're being so selfish," he said. "Family is everything. Mom just wants to be involved in our lives. Why can't you be more grateful for everything they do for us?" I left that night, going to stay with my friend. The weeks that followed were both heartbreaking and liberating. Bruce's family launched a full campaign to bring me to my senses. Nancy called my parents, telling them I was having a mental breakdown. My sister-in-law flooded my social media with posts about ungrateful daughters-in-law and the importance of family. But for the first time in years, I could breathe. I could make decisions without consulting Nancy's approval. I could work late without getting guilt-trip texts. I could be myself without trying to fit into the Bradley family mold. When I finally asked for a divorce, Bruce seemed genuinely shocked. "But we're family," he kept saying, as if that explained and excused everything. Maybe that was the problem all along in his world. Family meant sacrificing your individuality, your boundaries, and your dreams for the collective. But I couldn't live that way anymore. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago. Nancy still tells anyone who will listen that I abandoned her son because I couldn't handle being part of a close-knit family. Bruce has already started dating someone new, a woman his mother introduced him to, of course. As for me, I'm rediscovering who I am without the Bradley family shadow looming over me. I moved to a new apartment, threw myself into my work, and started traveling on my own terms. Last month, I finally took that cooking class in Bali alone, and it was perfect. Sometimes I miss Bruce, or rather the Bruce I thought I was marrying. But I don't miss walking on eggshells in my own home or having every decision scrutinized by his family or feeling like an outsider in my own marriage. I've learned that while family can be everything, it shouldn't cost you yourself. True family, whether born or chosen, supports your growth, respects your boundaries, and loves you for who you are, not who they want you to be. I'm still healing, still learning to trust my instincts again, but for the first time in years, I'm excited about my future. Because this time I get to write my own story without anyone else trying to edit it.